At an active metro station, there's an active exit that leads you down to an abandoned bus station? What's that all about?
Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new Trains Are Awesome video. I'm Tom and I'm at New Carrollton Station in Prince George's County, Maryland. I really like this station because it makes it so easy to transfer from the Washington Metro to Amtrak or MARC commuter rail.
New Carrollton is a major interchange station where passengers can transfer between many different modes of transportation. Nearby, there are also office buildings for the Metro. It's the terminus of the Metro Orange Line, and actually, Metro trains began stopping here 5 years before Amtrak did. The Metro station opened in 1978, while the Amtrak station opened in 1983. And this station is slated for a massive renovation in the coming years.
And if you think it's nice now, it's about to get a lot nicer as well. But today we're not spending time here in New Carrollton or even really in Maryland. We're gonna take the Orange Line almost all the way to the opposite end in Virginia because there's something weird that I want to show you there.
Today we are headed to West Falls Church Station. You'll see why when we get there. With all the content we've been sharing the last few months from all over the place, it can be easy to forget that we've been living in Washington, D.C. for the better part of a year already. Lindsay and I love it here. It really is a great place for us. There are many factors that contribute to this, but the public transportation is definitely one of them. I ride the Metro every day, and several times a week I take transit to explore new places or find interesting things. Oftentimes, I take these adventures with friends, new and old, who are as passionate about public transportation as I am.
Oh, by the way, while we're on the train, let's change the weather a little bit and my outfit.
Today's destination is an interesting site that some of my friends had put on my radar relatively early. The Metro Orange Line is 26 miles or 42 kilometers long, crossing the region in an east-west direction. Construction first began when the very first shovel for Metro went into the ground in 1969. The very first part of the Metro opened in 1976 when the first part of the Red Line opened, but just a year later in 1977, the Blue Line opened between Stadium Armory and National Airport. A year later, in 1978, an extension opened to New Carrollton along existing railroad tracks. For a year, both blue and orange trains ran on this route. Trains headed to New Carrollton were Orange Line trains, and trains headed back to the airport were Blue Line trains. But in 1979, the Orange Line was extended to Ballston, and by 1986, the entire current line to Vienna was opened. The DC Metro is an ever-evolving system. For example, in 2014, the first part of the Silver Line opened. Today, the Silver Line goes all the way to Dulles Airport and beyond. Through the core of Washington, D.C., the Orange Line shares tracks with the Blue and Silver Lines. The lines join together at Stadium Armory and provide a super high-frequency service all the way to Roslyn in Virginia. This trunk section is very popular among tourists and commuters alike. It serves the Eastern Market, the Capitol, Smithsonian Museums, and the White House, as well as many different federal office buildings. At Smithsonian Station, there is some evidence that points to Metro's ever-evolving nature. On the eastbound track, signs just say Smithsonian, but on the westbound platform, they say Smithsonian National Mall. We see the same at Foggy Bottom, the second busiest station on the entire Metro network. Eastbound signs just say Foggy Bottom, while the westbound ones say Foggy Bottom, Kennedy Center. Why? Well, the much anticipated Silver Line extension to Ashburn opened in November of 2022. Because the destination changed, so did the signs, and the new signs added the second little line. But since nothing really changed in the other direction, trains were still going to Largo, there was no need to add new signs to those platforms. Of course, today we are riding the Orange Line, not the Silver Line. But I'm not just sharing this merely as a fun fact. The opening of the Silver Line had major implications for the station that we're visiting today. After Roslyn, the first station in Virginia, the Blue Line splits off. We serve multiple stations in Arlington County, all while still sharing tracks with the Silver Line. Once we pop out of the ground, we find ourselves in the middle of Interstate 66. The distances between stations suddenly become much larger.
This is East Falls Church. On the left.
The first station in the highway median is also our last transfer station to the Silver Line, East Falls Church.
Step back. Doors open.
A ride from East Falls Church to West Falls Church takes about 4 minutes.
This is West Falls Church. Doors opening on the left.
Attention customers, with conditions may cause slamming to escalators and stairways. Please hold the hand.
All right, made it to West Falls Church in Virginia. Now, this is a pretty cool station. As you can see next to me, there's an out-of-service train.
That out-of-service train is sitting on the middle track. West Falls Church is one of only 2 stations on the entire metro network to have 3 tracks, the other station being National Airport Station. Nearby, there is a large rail yard, so the middle track is good for trains to access that yard. The third track is probably also why you can see this next train sign, which are usually only present at terminal stations. On the east end of the platform, we see the viaducts that carry the Silver Line above the Orange Line en route to Ashburn. Now that we've taken a look at the platforms, let's head up the escalator to the mezzanine.
So the Orange Line continues for 2 more stops, Dunloring and then Vienna, but we got off here at West Falls Church because there's something I want to show you here. Some abandoned infrastructure, if you will.
You can see what I'm talking about from the windows on the mezzanine. This highway oasis, with its white tarp shelters and lush green medians, looks a lot like a bus station. That's because it is, or should I say was. Let's leave the fare gates and investigate further.
So I've made it to the mezzanine. Now there are 2 exits here. You can either go right or you can go left. To see the bus bays that are currently active at this station, we must head right. We follow signs saying kiss and ride, parking, buses, and once we've crossed the glass pedestrian bridge over the highway, we've reached the only active exit. So this is the main exit. It brings you to parking lots, it brings you to the bus station, even Capital Bike Share. Now let's try the other side.
Back in the mezzanine, we notice the light from another entrance, beckoning us to come explore. A blank sign hangs overhead. You'll notice the escalators here are still running. Now, metro escalators have a relatively high reliability rate, believe it or not, but anyone traveling on the system knows that closures for maintenance happen all the time. I don't think it's wild to assume that these escalators have probably had some work done here and there in the last decade. Round the corner and ta-da, a grand entrance, sort of, to a bus station, sort of. Where are we? The pylons in the ground indicate that this definitely used to be a bus station, but there are no buses anywhere to be found. The only signs of life are the parked cars and these adorable little bunnies.
So the escalators are still working. The door is still open. But once you exit here, there's nowhere to go. If it looks like I've just stumbled onto some sort of abandoned bus station, that's because I have.
Though today it may function as little more than a secluded parking lot, back in the day, this was an important transfer hub between metro rail and bus. To understand, let's take a look at a map of the area. The bus station is nestled between the station, the rail yard, and several highways. The only way to access it is using these ramps over here. They connect to a hidden little access road. You can take that road to reach the rail yard, or you can continue on and end up at this bus station. Commuter buses from places in Fairfax County and Loudoun County would come here, bringing passengers from places without metro access to the train. Perhaps the most important of these buses was the Washington Flyer. For $10, travelers could hop on the bus at Dulles International Airport. The Washington Flyer would then take them to West Falls Church, where passengers could connect to the Orange Line. But then 2014 came. In July of that year, the brand new Silver Line opened, adding new tracks from East Falls Church to Wheelie-Reston East. Coinciding with the opening, these bus operators, including the Washington Flyer, changed their routing to serve Wheelie-Reston East instead. That summer, West Falls Church saw a 70% reduction in passenger numbers. In November of 2022, when the full Silver Line to Dulles International Airport and Ashburn opened, bus service was altered once again. The Washington Flyer ceased operating altogether, no longer necessary. But by then, the bus station here at West Falls Church had already been abandoned by all bus services for over 8 years. Today, if you are driving down the road, you can still see the ramp that buses would take to reach the bus bays, a ramp only used by service vehicles today. So despite being in this unused state for a decade now, the station entrance is still open and maintained like any other entrance.
So I think it's just kind of weird. It's like open, but you're not really supposed to, be there. Down here by the escalator, there's a poster, and I'm going to go see how recent it is.
George Washington University only changed their mascot to the Revolutionaries in May of 2023, just 2 months before I filmed this video, which means the poster had to have been very recently updated. I find it bizarre that an entrance with no use for passengers would be kept open like this, and I'll be honest, I'm not exactly sure why it is like this.
So I was wondering if anybody was going to say anything, and just back up there on the mezzanine, one of the station attendants yelled at me and asked me if I needed any help. I can kind of understand where if you see somebody walking around, an exit that doesn't really go anywhere, that you might think they're lost. In this case, I wasn't lost, just making content. But thanks for asking. So there you have it, the train station exit that leads nowhere, here at West Falls Church on the DC Metro.
Since I'd made it just 2 stops from the western terminus of the Orange Line, I decided to pay a visit to the last 2 stops just for the heck of it. Dunloring is the penultimate station on the Orange Line. Just like both Falls Church stations, it opened in 1986, and we see very similar architectural styles in the station. Think of the windows in the station building and the white tarp bus shelters at the bus bays. While we were at Dunloring, my friend Sammy and I saw a flagger at work. We struck up a conversation, and he enthusiastically shared with us what the responsibilities of his job were. It was very interesting to learn about. But now that I'm done loring about this station, let's move on to Vienna, the line's terminus.
The next and last stop is Vienna. Step back, doors open.
Once again, very similar to these other 1986 Orange Line stations.
All right, I figured if we've come all the way from New Carrollton to West Falls Church, here's my friend Sammy, might as well finish the Orange Line. So this is Vienna, another lovely station in the middle of the highway. What do you think about Vienna Station?
It's the first station I ever used on Metro Rail, so it has a special place in my heart.
That's so cool.
But it's a park and ride, but they are building apartments near here, pretty nice apartments. And then on that side, they're not doing much, but there is room for improvement, but it's also not a bad station per se.
Well, I didn't know this place had a special place in your heart. It's actually my first time here at Vienna. Anyways, the bus station at West Falls Church, as far as I know, you can still go there. I mean, we just checked, it's still open, so definitely check that out if you like Metro history, if you like visiting abandoned places. We're gonna go catch a bus, so we'll see you next time.